While consuming and reviewing so many shows, every now and then a show comes out that just is so difficult for me to put into words. A series that I'll record a review for it over and over again, hoping one of those times I'll really nail it. And I don't think I ever really will with certain shows. And Ranking of Kings or Ousama Ranking is definitely one of those shows. A show that breaks from the norms, breaks from the typical tropes that we're used to, and presents characters that really captivate you. And yes, one main character, Boji, that grabs your heart and does not let go. But this is my review of Ranking of Kings or Ousama Ranking, a 23 episode series that was done by Wit Studio that aired in the fall 2021 anime season and into the winter 2022 anime season. So let's jump right into it. Ranking of Kings or Ousama Ranking follows Boji, who is a prince of this kingdom. And even though the fact that he has these high dreams of becoming a great king just like his father, unfortunately for him, he's a laughingstock of the kingdom itself. Everybody looks down upon him and mocks him because, beyond his own control, he was born deaf, and not only that, but also unable to speak. Well, one day Boji comes across a person named Kage. Kage is the remaining member of his clan, the Shadow Clan. And interestingly enough, Kage is able to understand Boji despite the fact that he's not really able to talk like normal people. And this excites Boji because this is his first friend, somebody that's able to understand him and become his friend. And Kage takes advantage of this and actually uses Boji to steal things from the castle for him. Well, one day, Kage decides to follow Boji back to the castle, and he sees a side of Boji that nobody else sees, a vulnerable side, a side of Boji breaking down because he actually understands that people are mocking him. He's not oblivious to the status that he's in, despite the fact that he's trying to stay positive and seeking the one day he'll become a great king. Well, Kage, in response to this, tells Boji that he'll be his one ally. He'll stay by his side and help him become the king that he seeks to become. What follows this is a series of events that really shakes the foundation of this kingdom itself, and really has a power struggle between people on who should be the leader, and ultimately a puppeteer that's working in the background that really is manipulating things in their favor. Additionally, on top of that, of course, the Ranking of Kings system itself, which is sort of a competition between all the kingdoms and their kings, seeking out who is the best of the kings. It's not just who's the strongest, it's actually like a culmination of several things that really tell who is the best, who is the number one of all the kings. Which gets me into my thoughts of Ranking of Kings. Go watch it. This is a perfect show in my eyes. Everything about this show is perfect. And I think a lot of it has to do with really everything that's presenting through both characters and the story beats themselves. Everything comes together for a perfect chemistry and a perfect formula for a perfect show. And the number one thing out of all of that is characters. I think this writer is so perfect at characters. Yes, opening up the show, the big draw, the thing that grabs you immediately is Boji. Boji is a fantastic main character because obviously he has some sort of disability that kind of makes him a sort of an underdog character. He's a character that has some sort of difficulty, but he's not letting that keep him down. And so as you see him bring out his positivity to people, you really want to support him. You want to be Kage right there saying, I am your one disciple, Boji. I will follow you to the ends of the world, Boji. We will make sure that you are happy. Make Boji happy. It's really easy to get connected with him. He's a young kid that is really struggling to do good things, but he has this preventing him, and everybody mocks him despite the fact that he's trying to keep a strong nature. And then when you see him break down, you're like, you see that vulnerable side to him, and you want to be there to say, Boji, it's okay, we're gonna do this. We're gonna be there. You want to be at his side. But it doesn't stop there. As the series goes along, you start to meet all these other characters, and the fascinating thing that happens is really quickly you realize nobody is a sum of their initial impression. Every character in this show has multi-dimensions to them, and they're very dynamic. And that's where I think this writer shines. These characters in the show, every single one of them is so fantastically written, and again, is not the sum of their first impressions. You see Healing, who is this queen who looks down upon Boji and believes that he's a disgrace of the kingdom, that he should be hidden away. But then you start learning more about her and you realize there's another side to her. There's another aspect of her that makes sense. You see that she's not just an evil queen. She has her own desires for Boji, and there's all these things that she does in the background that you realize, oh my gosh, I love this character. Like, this is a great character. Healing is easily one of my favorite female characters in such a long time. And yes, that continues as you get into Boji's brother Daida, you get into Domas, his betrayal, all these aspects that makes these characters multidimensioned. They're not just the Silverus Knight, there's not just the evil queen, there's not just the mean brother. They have their own stories and they have their driving force. But not just that, but they change over time. They're dynamic and they shift their perspectives based on what's happening at the current time. Yes, they'll still have their devotions. Yes, they'll have the thing that they're still striving for, but they'll still be conflicted and they'll shift their perspective on a regular basis. And I felt like that was the case, again, with every character in the show. Even these random side characters, even the bad guys and everything. Every one of them had a story that I was so interested in because of how I didn't really know where they would shift. As I did my episode by episode impressions, the main thing that I was talking about most of the time was what I thought the characters were thinking. What were they going to do next? I never knew because they were living, breathing characters that I wanted to see what they would do next. Even characters like Oaken, who's extremely evil at first appearance. This guy has killed a lot of people and you're like, this guy's evil. He is the epitome of evil. Then you get into a story and you realize, I want a redemption arc for this character. I really want a redemption arc for this character, which I think screams another aspect of this writer. I believe this writer, at least with this project, at least with Ousama Ranking of Kings, I believe this writer oozes the concept of forgiveness. I believe one of the main key story elements of Ranking of Kings is forgiveness and redemption. And it's not that every character who's done bad things is going to be forgiven. It's not that every character has a story that will go, oh, well, you have to now forgive them. This is obviously not in their control. It's not really the case. It's almost as if the writer presents to you this idea that somebody is not the sum of their parts, that they have this reason for why they did what they did, and they maybe in their eyes believe that it was just. And then you have this idea of, can you forgive them? It's like the writer presents it to you and says, are you willing to forgive this? You don't have to, but at least gives every character that opportunity for redemption. And I really like that. It's really a telling thing when you have characters that do terrible things and then Boji walks up and says, that's not right. And then you're like, gosh dang it, Boji, you're right. Don't do that, Boji. It's really fantastic. And like I said, it's not as if I forgive every character. Like there's characters where I'm like, oof, I can't go with you on that one. That dude did some terrible things. It's just really like that conundrum that you have when you realize there's more to this character than just pure evil. It's not the cackling bad guy. There's more to the story, and I love that. And seeing how each of these characters kind of interweave and their stories intertwine with each other really does give you that conflict. When you realize the evil of the evil is actually tied to this character, and they really want the best of them, that gives you that inner struggle where you're like, I know this is bad, but at the same time, I understand why they're hurting. It's just, like I said, writing perfection. Character writing 101 that I think anybody who's looking into creating storytelling really needs to use this as an example because I think the writing here is so perfect and I love every bit of it. But there's more to the show than just the characters, despite the fact that I think the characters is really the crux of why I love this show so much. It's the world, it's the fantasy, and all that kind of stuff that I also love as well. It's obviously sort of a medieval type setting, but I do like the fact that it has a very subtle injection of fantasy. I love the fact that they have magic and demons and all these kind of unknowns to our world that are slowly injected in the show in a way that I feel comfortable about. When you do have this one pinnacle point happen early in the show, they have an injection of, here's a demon. And you're like, whoa, why is there demons in this world? And it doesn't go, well, let's take time to explain why there's demons in this world. No, it's a presence. It's there. And like I said, it's sprinkled throughout the world. Now, one kind of oddity about this show that I do definitely have to address, and that's really the art style of this show. I will admit early on looking at this show, even though I heard some people that were chirping about how amazing this story was, or the original manga was, I seen the art style and I'm like, this looks very 80s. This looks very old school cartoonish anime. But what's surprising is that as I got into the show itself, that quickly left my mind. Despite the fact that all the characters have very unique, very different looking styles to each one of them. I mean, you have Desha, who's like the leader of the underworld, has an oval mouth that stretches beyond his cheeks. And then when you have him next to somebody like Domas, who's maybe more of a traditional style character, or you have Boji, who has a very round head, it's very different. And it feels off at first from face value, from the outside looking in. But again, going back to my whole comment about how well this writer does characters, it didn't bother me. Very quickly, I just got sucked into the world. I got sucked into the storytelling. I got sucked into the visuals of it. And yes, I will credit that a lot to do with Wit Studio. They did an incredible job animating this show. It looked fantastic. It looked very immersive, the visuals, the style of it. Yes, very kind of old storybook looking. Kind of just throws you into the world, and it's almost as if the storybook is just coming off the pages. And yes, having later on some crazy awesome action scenes that Wit Studio just goes ballistic with, and it's golden. It's golden. Visually, this show is pure beauty. And it's so fascinating with, again, how kind of cartoonish and old school anime it looks. So again, I will say it. Go watch Ranking of Kings. This is an absolute treasure of a story. And I love the journey of Boji. Him really not just Boji getting stronger, not really just Boji getting more mature and realizing the world outside, but really this aspect of seeing all of these characters grow and growing together through some sort of difficulty. There's obviously a lot happening behind the scenes. There's a puppeteer that's really manipulating the people of this kingdom. And to see everybody grow and also realize just how important Boji is to them was definitely gold in my mind. This is a series that will go down as one of my favorite anime of all time. And like I said before, it's literally a perfect show. I have no issues with this show. If I had to pull something out of myself, it'd probably be the fact that there was one key character later on in the series that I so badly wanted a redemption arc for that we didn't technically get. But I'm not mad. I felt like this was a really solid, complete story. It kind of presents this idea of something happening in the background. It gets to that big pinnacle point, and everything sort of gets resolved in the end. It feels like a solid chapter close. Now, while I desperately want a second season, it is one of those shows where I don't feel angry about where it kind of ended off. And yes, if this doesn't get a second season, this will be one of the few series where I'm like, I have to check out the manga. I have to go to the source material. I need more of this world. Additionally, some would probably find a negative in the idea that the whole Ranking a King system, which is literally what the title is, kind of gets left to the wayside as it gets into this whole issue within the kingdom. But I feel like this whole story arc itself was solid build up for that. And I think there was things sprinkled throughout it in my own theory videos that I created for the series that technically are about the Ranking of Kings. Like, I don't believe that it was put to the side, but rather it was kind of side storied. There were like these little things that were sprinkled throughout it. But that's my review of Ranking of Kings. I have to stop. Like I said before, I'll never do this show justice. I will continue to talk until it's somehow done justice, but I love this show so much. Please go watch Ranking of Kings. It is an absolutely incredible show. Characters done right, amazing animation, such great story beats. The fantasy was fantastic. All the intrigue, the character shifts, all that stuff was so well done, and I cannot express enough how much I love this show. With that said, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like down below, comment. Let me know if you checked out the series. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Are you going to be checking out the series? I definitely love hearing from you guys. As always, if you have not already, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We definitely appreciate everybody that supports us through either Patreon or tips link or our merch site in the links below. And I hope that you all enjoyed, and y'all take care.